Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Future Strike. I am Cliff.
I'm Spencer. Happy Sunday.
So this is going to be a new type of episode that we will bring out to you from time to time, where Spencer is going to present some design ideas and artwork to me that I have never seen ever before. And I will be reacting in real time and giving some feedback.
So today I'm going to present to you the Junktown level.
Ooh, okay, Junktown.
So Junktown is a medieval city that's built out of like the post-apocalyptic wreckage. So part of the world is this area called the Pit, which we'll talk about more detail in a future episode. That's like the post-apocalyptic zone, right? And Junktown is kind of a neighboring area that's much more like civilization that's like been assembled from the junk, right? But it's supposed to kind of feel like simultaneously like old and near futuristic, right? Because it's supposed to kind of look a little bit medieval, but it's like made from like machines and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea. So here are some of the concepts for kind of the main three stages in the level. So there's the slums, as you see here on the right. Then we have Main Street and Old Town. Maybe I'll just pause there. What do you think so far?
I mean, it's evocative. And it's interesting. It's like almost a little bit, I don't know, is it it's an indiscriminate culture, which I like. It's like, is this Old Town like Japan or not so much? Because like on the right, that building is clearly not like an ancient Japanese like structure, but you see some sort of the Japanese influence and sort of the like little the lantern on the left side under Main Street hanging from that eave there.
That's right.
But that collision between the futuristic, not even steampunk, just science fiction, really, the like Blade Runner with the ancient is, I mean, I've never even seen anything like that before. So it's super cool. And I do also like the depth of the actual image where, you're going off into the distance and you can sort of get a very good sense of how vast the space is,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fun to think about, like, I like the composition of them too. So it's like the perspective that they're taking. And in some ways, actually like imagining almost that like, this is actually kind of the background of the stage. Like, I guess I would probably want to put like more people in this setting.
Yeah.
Would be there watching the fight, or the fighting going on. But actually kind of like that you're kind of like moving past these intersections, or you're kind of on the cross street and then you kind of see off into the distance,
What's interesting on the right on Old Town, though, that car that's on the sort of main car on the right there is pretty dang big. Because if those are people to the left walking towards it, like that car is pretty huge.
Please don't call attention to the messed up proportions.
No, but it's funny because if you don't really think about it, it's pretty cool still. Maybe it's like a big bus car.
I think the people are the thing that's misleading. Like it's not even really people, right? It's like kind of shapes that imply people.
Yeah.
But I pin the car to the arch, right? It's like that perspective I think is right. It's like a person that goes into that arch, right, is about the right size, I think, for the car.
No, that's true. That's true. But I mean, and it's so interesting too, just the color palette. I guess, did you tell it like, okay, the kind of the blues up in the windows there, like how did it?
I do not typically get into that level of detail with it. Sort of picked this.
But I like that. And I like too, it's very mysterious. Like even on the right, for some reason, I'm more drawn to the right side picture. Maybe because that's just natural. That's why they put like the host in a talk show on the right of the screen is like, that's the dominant side of the screen. But like to the left of that Old Town scene, there's like something glowing there.
Yeah.
It's cool. It makes you wonder, like, what is happening here? Like, this is.
Yeah.
So no, it's awesome.
But actually, before we go any further, I should take a moment here to talk a little bit about level structure in Future Strike. So this diagram is meant to show kind of like the kind of logical structure of a level, and each sort of square or cube here, or tile, I guess I should say, is like a stage. And so what I've shown is like the slums in Main Street and Old Town, and that's kind of this like row on the bottom. And that's sort of the default path. So like if you're just kind of, playing the game, taking some hits, taking your time, you're going to go down this path. And then you're going to face one of these two bosses. So it'll be kind of 3 stages, and then you come to the boss stage. And it's sort of randomly chosen which one you meet if you're on the default path. But then these other paths here, so like the green arrows are if you're fast. So if you get through the first stage very, very quickly, you can move up into this, which is like kind of the perfect or like ultra path, basically. Or if you're not as quick in the first stage, but you're pretty quick getting to the boss stage, then you can sort of move down here. So that's like a speedy path. Or if you're at full health, so if you're like, perfect through all of your matches or whatever, you can get on the sort of gold path, right? And that opens up other exits. And so that's kind of how you can have the different bosses in the stages, and how you have some of the unlocks. But anyways, it's this kind of structure that like all of the levels I'm working them out will have. So they'll have these 5 kind of stages and 6 boss stages, and you sort of face them in some configuration depending on how you play. Does that make sense?
It does. And what I was just thinking about when you said that is like, okay, I could imagine in like the first level, okay, I could probably get through it. But to unlock some of the upper tier bosses and levels in the more advanced stages will be much more challenging,
That's the idea, right? Although, we'll come to this later too, because the characters are going to have different trajectories through the worlds,
Yeah.
right? Like there'll be ways in which like, well, certain characters might have easier access to other characters, right? As far as like meeting them and unlocking them and things like that, given on when you would encounter them.
Yep.
But it's all kind of one big like puzzle system, right? And it's still like, it's so much to get them all, but that's part of the fun, right? A little bit of the story about Junktown, and I'll go back because like this is more fun to look at. Is it's ruled by this self-styled king, and Uthyr is his name. So he's one of the bosses, and we'll look at a picture of him in a second. And he actually doesn't call it Junktown. So he calls it the Broken Kingdom, because he's like kind of dramatic and, in that way. And he has this group of fighters called the Broken Table. So it's kind of like they're the Knights of the Broken Table, and they serve as most of the bosses of the level. So a lot of the people that you encounter, so, Akiko and Yegor and Dmitry, they're all Knights of the Broken Table, right? And so that's kind of the main theme of the area as I'm conceiving it.
And then I see here that to get to Uthyr, it's the most difficult path, really.
Exactly.
Right?
Uthyr is the perfect path, right?
Yeah.
You have to take no hits or whatever, like, and then you kind of move up, and that's how you meet him. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so here's the first boss, Akiko. So she is a mix-up rushdown character, samurai knight of the Broken Table. Her basic character outline is that she's hungry to prove herself to be the greatest warrior at the Broken Table, right? And you're just kind of a stepping stone. And so you meet her in the town square. You just kind of take the default path. When you arrive, she says her, one line to you. Anyways, here she is, and she's got her 2 goons down there. The, kind of young knight in training, Hanzo, and then Chie is kind of like a street urchin.
And this is the stage that you would like, is she going to sort of like exit from one of these buildings, or how do you envision her like arriving onto the scene when you enter this screen?
It's a good question. Looking at this, I kind of envision her actually like standing atop one of these piles of rubble, just kind of like overlooking the scene, and then you sort of arrive, and she, sees you there, and as though she's almost kind of been waiting for you, right? And she's like, okay, because you've been like beating people up, like
she's heard about it. Yeah. She's heard about that you're making a ruckus.
Exactly. She heard that you're coming, you know what I mean? She's like, okay, I'm going to wait for them in the square. All roads lead to me is kind of her attitude.
No, I like that. And I like the minimalist kind of dialogue pieces that you've been, putting in. So that's cool.
I know I've told you this, Cliff, but for the benefit of our listeners, the idea there is like each person, when you meet them, they basically get one line, and it should be like one line of iambic pentameter, basically. So they have like 10 syllables to kind of like, express what they, this one idea before you throw down and you're fighting, right? So that's kind of the goal, is try to put a lot into that one line and kind of make it, say something, right, that gets the fight going.
Yep. No, it's great. And it's interesting too, just that, like, again, the color palette is it's awesome. It's very painterly, and like the way that they, the two goons and the boss, that they all fit in that landscape.
So next up is Yegor. So again, default path. This is rather than ending up in the town square, you go down kind of to the underway. So this sort of underground like roadway that's going to lead you out of Junktown.
Mm-hmm.
So Yegor is a grappler brawler character.
Yep.
He's a sadistic sumo warrior of the broken table. And his thing, as you sort of get from his one-liner there, he enjoys causing pain. And basically he sees you as trespassing in his domain. And so he's going to take this opportunity, to do what he likes to do when you encounter him.
He sort of reminds me of Bane, which is, I guess the mask.
Yeah.
For Kyo. Now, how do you see the goons? Like, I guess you sort of talked about this before, but like, how do you see the goons behaving differently than the boss? Like, as you're beating through the waves of Kyos and Batars, like.
So obviously, this is one of those things where you have to test it out.
Right.
But the way that I envision it might work would be that the goons that you encounter are using AI that is basically predicted to be weaker than you, right? Because the game kind of like, as it's constantly modeling your own behavior, it's like kind of like ordering you in a ranking system of like, well, like, how good is this player versus all of the player shadows in the bank, right? And it can just kind of like move you up and down the ladder. And so the goons are always going to be AI that's lower than you, right? And it might be much, much lower, or it might be a little bit lower. And that's kind of how I think about the two goons. So like maybe Batar is much, much lower, and Kyo is like a little bit lower, right? But it's like you should beat them, but they're going to be using logic that like just players who are not as good as you would use, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of the idea, is that like you're going to see things that like you basically know how to handle. Whereas Yegor, right, when you reach the boss, that's going to be at your level, right, or above, right? It's sort of the idea.
What's fun about that is that, as you get better at the game overall, the goons are getting better too.
Exactly. Right. So that's another way that like it keeps it entertaining. I think, we could have a setting in there that you can like, put it on easy mode, if you just kind of want to mindlessly tear through it. Right. But I think the default should be this sort of interesting engagement where it's just like, yeah, so the challenge is still kind of tuned to you.
Yeah. And then you could have like, what do they call it? Like, nightmare mode where everyone is tuned to the gills,
Yeah, exactly. Top, you're only going to fight the best players. And like, that's how you'll get better.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Now, if you take the speedy path along the default way, right? So that's to say you're not perfect. You weren't first out of the gate, but you're kind of pretty quick to get to the boss stage. You come to the foundry, and that's where you meet Petra. Now, she's a zoner rushdown character. She's a fire mage and artificer who runs the town's foundry. And now you kind of have busted into her workplace and caused a ruckus, and so she's going to teach you a lesson, right? And that's sort of how the fight.
I like that sort of she's playing against what you might imagine someone to be working in a foundry. Like, I don't necessarily imagine that as, the character. I would think it would be this big burly person, but I guess she's a mage and she's throwing fireballs at you and doing all kinds of cool stuff like that. So
she likes to get in there. I mean, she's working with like hot metal. That's how I think about it.
Okay.
I mean, she's an artificer, right? So fire magic, crafting, like, magical artifacts, right? That's kind of her interest. I want to think more about this. Like my sort of thought is like, she actually doesn't like Uthyr, but it's kind of like struck a bargain with him or whatever, where she gets to like kind of use the resources and use this workshop for her purposes in exchange for like, she makes in some weapons or something like that, right? Kind of building that as part of the backstory. But sort of you get there and she's just like, she's got no time for you really, but.
It's interesting that her quote is interesting though. It's like, allow me to ignite your full potential. So it's like, I'm going to kick your butt, but that's sort of an opportunity for you to unleash who you really are.
Yeah, I sort of thinking her saying it a little bit in a sarcastic way, but it has that kind of double meaning, right? That it's like, I mean, basically she's saying like, I'm gonna burn you alive.
Yeah.
But like
what I like about the this level here is, or the stage is, just the fact that now we're inside and you can sort of feel the heat of it. I like the flames going and the red, and like, the fact that we feel like we're in a workshop, you know.
Yeah.
No, and these like weird vehicles or who knows what they are, these things, these mechanical things in the workshop are scary. Like what are they?
Yeah. I'll go back here just to remind us. So if you end up on kind of the perfect path, right? So you've gone up, right? So we've seen Slums, Main Street, Old Town, the square, the Underway, the Foundry. Now we're on the perfect path. So if you're quick out of the gate, you come to the castle gate. So at that first stage, if you move very quickly through the slums, you make it to the castle gate. And so you're like on the outskirts of the castle, obviously. If you're not perfect there, or excuse me, if you're not fast and perfect through there, you might end up in the chapel, right? And it's this kind of ruined, sort of chapel space with these like, old artillery vehicles or whatever there.
Mm-hmm. And I like the continuity of just the architecture. It's pretty incredible. This is all of a one, you know, which I like. It's like, whoa. You would think that it was intentional, which I mean it was clearly, but it all is very much feels like one location with little spots here and there, nooks and crannies, which is a beautiful thing, you know.
Okay. So you start on the perfect path, but you don't finish on the perfect path. You end up at the treasury, and that's where you meet Dmitry. So Dmitry is a reversal mix-up character. He's the oldest and highest ranking member of the Knights of the Broken Table. He's also the treasurer of the Broken Kingdom. And so when you bust into the treasury, basically, he's there to kick you out, right? So he's like, you've lost your way. I'm going to escort you out now, right?
Now, does he have some sort of a like blade or like what is that? What do you see as that thing poking out from his chest under his jacket there, under his
Oh,
coat?
I see that. You know what? That's interesting. Yeah, you can see in some of the other versions, that was more part of the vest. So that's like a kind of an artifact.
Oh, okay.
But basically, I do envision him as having a blade. There are some earlier versions of him where he has kind of a big sword, like a kind of big, like two-handed katana blade.
Yeah.
And it's still a little bit expressed by kind of the shadows behind him.
Yeah.
But it's not as clear in these designs. But I really like the sort of face and like his like cyborg arm, but he's also in a suit, anyways. If he's got a big sword, he's going to bust out on you.
So Dmitry is what kind of archetype?
Reversal mix up.
Oh, okay. So he's like jumping around, kicking you. You can't, and you don't know what the hell is going on.
I think so. Like I also like. Yeah, go ahead. What do you say?
I was gonna say he's a ninja, basically.
He'll be kind of like. I mean, everyone is going to be kind of like a ninja in a way for the most part. But I think of him as like, he's going to have some kind of tricks up his sleeve, and like reversal characters will always have a counter. So there'll be some kind of like move or stance that they can enter where it's like if you hit them, like they just kind of like turn it around on you,
Right.
Right. So it's like they're trying to bait you into stuff, right? And that's kind of be the way that I envision him playing. Is he sort of had lots of these kind of like things where it's really about kind of making you miss, and then he's going to punish you pretty hard.
Love it.
Cool. All right. So now we come to the king. This was the perfect path. So here's Uthyr. So Uthyr is a stance character. And he has a footsie stance where he's like busting out his big sword, or in some ways, sometimes with the like, I don't know, you can kind of see the suggestion of like the cords behind him. I sort of imagine him as having maybe like kind of like Dr. Octopus kind of parts or something. Like, in any case, and that's his footsie stance. And then he also has a puppet stance where he's like calling in goons, right? So that's kind of, he's more defensive, and he's like, look, I'm the king. So like, where's my guards? Like you can kind of move between those, right? So he's the tyrant king of Junktown. Not a nice guy. He's oppressive, but he does respect strength, right, as a part of his character. And so that's kind of what the line is. Like, look, you made it to his throne room. He's like, if you can beat me, basically, I'll let you leave here alive.
Now, let's say whenever you beat a boss, do they have another quote that they will like, so let's say you beat him and he says, some other thing that builds on this for his character. Like, okay, you've defeated me, and then it, spins off into whatever the next.
I don't know. What do you think? I go back and forth around that. Usually I think the winner says something to the loser, but it would be interesting to actually have them have like a little dialogue.
To have them have two, like one back and one forth.
Yeah.
I think that could be cool.
Harder to do because you have to then
Yeah,
all the combinations, but honestly, like Chat GPT.
exactly. It's like just do all the, and then like we'll hard code ChatGPT so it's chatting with itself.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but no, this is great, and like that's one hell of a throne room.
Yeah, I like it.
I like the like techno world, the like sci-fi throne room. I don't think I've ever even seen that before.
Yeah, it looks cool, right?
Yeah, and like
Post-apocalyptic, like Junktown throne room is the
yeah, and like the throne and like the the kind of funky shaped windows that are made out of God knows what, and like the weird vents and things like that, and the in the walls, and it's yeah.
Yep, yep. All right, one more. All right, so if you take the ultra path, that is to say you are fast and perfect, you get to the boss in 3 stages, right? Rather than it requiring 4 as usual.
Mm-hmm.
You get to Vesper. So she's a rush down brawler character.
Whoa.
She's a cyborg superhero from the Megacity. So we haven't gone to the Megacity yet. We'll talk more about that in future episodes. But she is here because she detests Uthyr's rule, basically in Junktown, and wants to help the poor people in their living conditions. And so you encounter her in the arsenal. She's just broken in there with plans to like sabotage basically like his, weapons and things like that. But, because you've surprised her, she thinks you're there to stop her, whether you're there, whether you're good or evil. So, you're going to have to fight it out.
I like her.
So she's also kind of a little bit meant to, with some of the characters, I want them to kind of like foreshadow like other places, you know what I mean? So they're kind of like, so she's kind of not from this world, but she's aware of it, right? And she's there, but yeah.
No, I like that. And what I like too is what I just thought when I was looking at this, I thought I want to play as her. You know what I mean? Like
Nice.
and that's the push of the game partially is like, okay, I want to get to this boss. I want to beat the boss so that I could play as that character in my next run.
Yep. That's the goal. So here they all are.
That's awesome.
And then here are all the goons.
Yes.
And I feel like both of those would make good posters.
I was just gonna say posters, t-shirts, like we're gonna release all you listeners out there and viewers. Just stay tuned. We're gonna have some special stuff come up at some point, at some time. Spencer, that was freaking awesome.
Thanks, man.
I have no real notes other than keep up the good work, buddy. A plus.
I'll send you the t-shirt. I'll make you a t-shirt with Vesper on it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. People will be like, what is that? And I'll say, you'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we go through versions of character design, level design. Spencer throws this and that at me, and we just kind of riff. So like, subscribe, comment. What did you guys think? Where do you think we should go next? Any ideas for a level? If we hate it,
check out the Obsidian page. All the levels are there. I don't have all the characters fully. All the names are there. There's sketches of all of them. But yeah, tell us if you want to see a particular level, learn more about a particular character. Put it in the comments. We'll do it.
Sweet. All right. Well, until next time.